Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
And my name is Ashton.
We're all back in the same room.
Hello.
How you feeling, Peter?
Feeling much better, thank you.
Good. Glad to hear it. How are you feeling, Ashton?
Sleepy.
Oh,
Sleepy.
it's a Thursday. It's a busy day at work today.
Yeah.
So you'll be unconscious by the end of
Yeah, I'm going to get home and I'm just going to pass out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Can't wait.
How are you feeling?
How are
today?
you
I'm doing all right. Thank you for us. Thank you so much for asking.
That's all right.
I'm prompted too. That's really good of you. Each and every week on this very real video game podcast, I promise the podcast part is real.
Podcast.
We're sponsored by a very real video game adjacent sponsor. Do not see Dead Island 2 the Spider today.
He needs to get his act together because the game is out now.
The game is out. We're covering it today in a review corner.
Representing.
So you would have thought, did you get to have a chance to, what are you looking at over there?
I thought there was a spider in the very corner by the door, but I can't tell if it's a spider or
yeah, it's a bit of, there's
something
studio
there.
I think it's just mismatched painting.
Damn.
Perhaps. But, you do share a house with Dead Island 2 the Spider.
Yeah.
So not only have you played
seen...
Dead Island 2,
yeah.
did you get a chance to talk to the spider
I
itself?
haven't, no. I think maybe he was being a bit shy because obviously, like, you know when you've made something and you give it to me, like, if you don't like it, like, you don't have to,
you don't have to eat it.
You don't have to pretend. Yeah, like maybe that's what was happening. So.
Oh, poor guy. Well, either way, we will definitely be talking about Dead Island 2 later on.
Yeah.
However, Peter, I believe you have an ad read for a very real video game adjacent sponsor that helps us keep the lights on here.
Yeah, I have. You know that guy off of the horror movie who has a chainsaw for a hand?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a chainsaw for a hand?
Yeah.
What horror movie is that?
Mr. Evil Dead.
In the Evil Dead.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah. Okay.
He has a chainsaw hand. It's useful to have a chainsaw hand if you're living out in the wilderness. Trees get in your way, rocks. You could probably chainsaw a rock.
I think you could.
Yeah.
If you had a good one. And they're doing a game all about that now. So he's up there in some sort of rocky alpine area,
right?
And he's there chopping stuff up, surviving. Came out this week. Campbell, the Mountain King.
Excellent.
Oh.
That's good.
That's not where I thought it was going.
Oh, right.
What did you think it was?
Well, he mentioned the word surviving, and I thought we were getting it was going to be something to do with Jedi Survivor.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's out this week as well.
It is out this week.
It was Campbell, the Mountain King.
Yeah, because of Bramble, the Mountain King, which I'll talk about today in Review Corner.
So many review corners today.
There's a lot of review corners today.
So it is real or not real?
It's not real. The one with Bruce Campbell is not real.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
Damn
that would be a
it.
good game as well. Remember when we played that worst game ever with...
I
Did it
do.
actually star Bruce Campbell? I think it did.
It did, yeah. And you had a Bruce Campbell quip button.
Yeah.
Where you could just say groovy and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, I played the demo for Bramble, the Mountain King, and I did think the entire time there's not enough Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, not enough chainsaws.
Nightmare.
Well, that's a missed opportunity. Unfortunately, no, we're not sponsored by Campbell, the Mountain King. We are sponsored, however, by our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/Team TripleJump, where for as little as $1 per month, you could submit questions to this podcast. There's loads of other tiers available as well, and you should go check it out if you can.
Yeah.
We appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Peter, question.
Got a question from Blake Thomas, who says, talk about a bad hair day.
Oh.
Or a good one, if you'd rather. It says, well, don't know. From Leon Kennedy's edgy face curtains, sorry, not fake. From Leon Kennedy's edgy face curtains to Queen Sindel's murderous locks, what are some of your most memorable hairdos and don'ts of gaming? Wow, I really struggle. I'm getting back into it.
Yeah.
I've been
you
off
had
for
a
2
week
weeks.
off, then you had COVID. It's all right.
It wasn't your fault.
Nobody even noticed.
There's an apostrophe in the wrong place in don'ts.
That's true.
So that's probably what messed you up.
Oh my God.
There.
I was looking at that and I was like, the apostrophe is not in the right place, but also I don't know where to put it because would there be 2 apostrophes in don'ts? Because don't has an apostrophe. Well, don't has an apostrophe.
No. Yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
do.
So where's the apostrophe going if it's not there? Please tell me, because that's been bothering me all morning.
It sort of is in the right place, but also not. It's strange.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Let's
not even put it down to the question writing because
we're not even going to disclose where it is. We're going to let everyone else
it's
think about it.
between the N and the T, but there's an S
it
at
normally
the
would
end.
be, but there's an
Yeah.
S.
And what do you mean it's in the wrong place?
It's because the S is throwing it all off. It looks wrong, but it's not.
Yeah.
Don't.
But I also said gaving, which is for the word gaming, which is a word I say multiple times a day in this job. So there's no excuse. excuse.
No.
Gaving.
Right. Okay.
Is what I stumbled on at
The
the
point
end there.
is, we're all completely on the ball.
Yeah.
And we know where apostrophes be.
Yeah.
Right. My favourite hairdo in gaving is Kratos. So there you go. That's my answer. No, it's not.
A great answer.
I'm only joking.
It's got a great beard.
Yeah. No, I like it just like his head. It's painted instead of hairy.
Do you think he could grow some stubble, or does he shave it?
Maybe
I think there's too much testosterone in him to not grow hair. Or does
Right.
testosterone actually is that more associated with baldness?
Yeah, it is. It is bold. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
Maybe that's why
testosterone
he's-
is.
so. Maybe
connected to
he
baldness.
shaved his
Oh,
head
right.
the first few times, but now he doesn't have to anymore.
Maybe. Maybe he lasered it.
Yeah.
He went to a special clinic
Yeah.
in
Had his hair
Athens.
lasered off.
Yeah.
No, that's not my real answer. If I'd not been prompted by Blake Thomas, I would have also said Leon Kennedy. He's got wonderful hair. He's
does.
a very sexy man.
Yeah.
But to also give an answer that is not given in the question, I quite like Paul Phoenix's ridiculous hair.
Yeah.
That is just a pillar of hair and then flat on the top. In Tekken 4, he wore it long because he had a bit of a like a crisis. What is it? Like a personality issue. Like,
Oh no.
It wasn't like a midlife crisis.
Is
but
he
like,
okay?
Yeah, he's okay. But he sort of turned into like this sort of rock star character where he was like,
right.
I'm cool now. And then like his ending when you complete arcade mode with him.
Oh no, wait, I'm not cool. Actually.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
looks in he's wearing these like silly like tinted shades, and he gets onto his motorbike.
Yeah.
And he looks in his mirror and sees them, and he takes them off, throws them to the floor, and goes, "Not my style,"
Oh,
and then like
very
drives
cool.
away
That's
on
good
his
stuff.
motorbike.
But think how much money he was saving on hair gel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. What do you have to do to keep your hair up like that? Apparently,
Super glue, right? Like
well-
like punks off of the 80s.
yeah, probably. But his hair has changed again in Tekken 8,
Has it?
seemingly. I imagine you'll still have the option for the tall hair, either as an additional cosmetic item or just an alternative costume.
Right.
Sometimes if you select characters with a different button, you get alternate costumes. But
Okay.
Isn't it a bit flatter now? There's one that's like kind of got like
Yeah.
a bowl situation and it's flat on the top.
oh yeah, that's someone else. That's from a different fighting game. There is someone whose hair is a bit like Paul's, but it goes out and then very flat.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who that is.
Oh,
No.
that's a Street Fighter, isn't it?
Is it a Street Fighter?
That's
yeah.
that they know. They're
Yeah, that-
yelling.
yeah,
they're
that
yelling
one.
it. It's that guy that
Flat top.
Jean-Claude Van Damme
I'll
played
Google.
Oh right.
in the movie, I think.
I
But
don't
he
know
didn't
his
look
name.
anything like him apart from because he has the hello. He has the US flag tattoo on his arm, doesn't he? Does he? I think he
character
I think
or
he does.
Jean-Claude Van
Well, he
Damme?
did in the movie, but
Right.
he didn't have the hair. Is
Okay.
what I mean. What's he called?
He's called.
There he is, Guile.
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 Yeah, that's who I was
You know,
thinking.
that Guile.
Yes.
Paul Phoenix, he's got interesting hair. I mean, it's kind of stupid, really, but, you know, I guess it's just because I like the character. Ashton,
Yeah.
what are your favourite hairdos and donuts of gaming?
And donuts.
Delicious.
I really like Aerith's hair. It looks pretty and soft, and I would like my hair to look like that. I also think for a man, handsome Jack has great hair.
Does have-
Obviously,
Yeah,
he's
he
very
does.
handsome,
A nice
but
streak.
the white streak, you know, it's pretty cool. But don't. I have a very strong opinion about something.
Okay.
Firstly, Jackie from Cyberpunk, terrible hair. I know that it's like meant to be like futuristic, different.
Oh right, yeah.
But he's got like a little like bit at the front, then it's like kind of
is
shaped, then it's
bad
pulled
hair.
back, then it's in a little bun. It's ridiculous, silly. But the hair I hate the most in gaming was the hair that they gave Cloud in Final Fantasy VII after he becomes a girl, briefly.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Right.
I hate that hair. I was like, oh my god, it's in a dress. I was like, what?
It's just his hair with extensions.
Yeah,
right?
they would like put, but not like long hair. They've just kind of like put some clip-in plaits in, and they just kind of stick out underneath, and it looks terrible. And when I was like, oh my god, they're turning him into a girl. And then on the big reveal, I was really disappointed because I was like, that hair looks terrible, and there's no way that Don Corneo would have picked him with that hair. Sorry, so
He might have.
Yeah, you don't know that for sure. And he did.
I wouldn't have picked him.
Okay.
I forgot to say my don't, which is the
Yeah.
sort of monk hair from which Dark Souls is it? The one?
Any of them.
Any of them. Is
Yeah.
it always available?
Yeah.
It's absolutely sinful.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Ironically.
Yeah,
You go to prison for that.
yeah. But I hate that hair on Cloud.
I've not thought of any bad ones. I'm desperately racking my brains because I think the Final Fantasy series is full of iconic hair.
yeah.
But there's there's also, I feel like, some pretty bad ones in there too. But I can't, like, none are springing to mind right now. The entire Final Fantasy VII roster, I feel, has, just from a hair standpoint, is pretty iconic. You could just have minimalist. I feel like you could get an art print of minimalist art where it's just the hairstyles of each character, and you would know exactly who each one is. So from in line with that, Cloud Strife, pretty great hair, I think. How does he do it? The individual peaks. What kind of hair technology is there at that point in time? Sephiroth as well. That's
luscious locks.
That's unwieldy hair. It goes down to the back of his knees. How are you going to be a sword fighting master when your hair's going swish swish all over the place? It sounds like I'm criticizing it, but actually I just think it's incredible that the man's able to use his hair like that. Lady Hellbender from the Guardians of the Galaxy video game. The sort of red plait, the really long red plait. I think it's a powerful look. Goes well with her muscular physique and her armor and her big axe.
Yep.
And I think that's a good hair. Additionally, Nathan Drake. Good quiff. Good quiff on Nathan Drake. Even into his 40s, I assume, in Uncharted 4. Still got good hair, good hairline on that boy. Perhaps a bad hairline that I can name off the top of my head, his brother Sam. Not such good hair.
Yeah, not actually that good.
Quite receding hairline and quite long. Maybe he should go for the Kratos look. Visit that clinic in Athens that we talked about. So there's some do's and some don'ts.
I played a video game on the PS2 that was called Demon Stone, not Demon Souls.
There's a lot of demon games.
It was a Forgotten Realms game, which is part of the like D&D kind of one of the worlds of D&D, I think. And it was in the era where they'd come up, they had the technology to do hair that like moves with physics and stuff in cutscenes and things. And so they just embedded all this hair in this fighter's head, this guy with a big sword. And in one of the cutscenes, he's like looking around, like watching these baddies. And he swings his head and looks at the other people and he goes, I thought this outpost was abandoned. And his hair goes through his face as he turns and then just flops out again. And they were like, you know what? We're going to leave that in because at least it moves.
Yeah.
That's true. But happens a lot in Horizon as well.
Yeah.
Aloy's animated hair goes through a lot of clothing.
Yeah. Normally it's just clothing, which I can kind of forgive because obviously you're giving her different armors and stuff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't tend to go like through her face. But sometimes it does feel like it's just moving on its own. I mean, she's got very good hair and it's a very like impressive thing that they do with her hair. But sometimes it is unwieldy and it just goes all over the place.
I've just never forgotten that moment. The guy's entire mop of hair goes through his face and they're like, yes, take it to the bank, everyone.
Yeah. I think the hair on WWE 2K whatever, the long hair that they put on my wrestler, thank you, this year and last year, I just think it looks bad.
Yeah, they are
like,
sort of
they're like
strands.
ribbons of
they
hair,
are ribbons,
and they like move as one, and I just don't like the way it looks.
You should have seen in WWE, which one? What it would have been 2K18. No, yeah, that we played when videos, or maybe 2K19 that came out towards the end of the year would have been the one we played.
Yeah, may well have been 19.
They're one of those earlier 2K games when they had, if you had a 6-woman match, the frame rate would just drop out of the game entirely because it's trying to animate all this hair. The fact they've now got stable hair is impressive, but you are right in that anything that you choose a preset from when you're customizing, bless you, it does look like sort of streaks of ribbon or bacon.
It does look like bacon. That is true.
So that happened in the Tekken 2. All this hair is coming out. I think the Tekken 2 opening cutscene, Nina Williams just had all of these threads of hair, like individual, about a centimeter apart, and they all moved in exactly the same way. So she would swing, and they would follow the exact same S-shaped curve, all parallel to each other. And
that's very bizarre.
Not great. Yeah, it was the early days.
Good hair physics. Resi 4 remake.
Yeah,
because you can go into the performance. You okay?
Yeah,
eyes watering.
I'm gonna sneeze again.
Okay. Eyes. I was gonna say eyes watering again. You can go into the performance settings, and there's a slider that's like just focused on Leon's scalp, and it just makes it glossier.
Yeah.
And I think because it's basically the same version that you can get on PC. It's a slider that's sort of redundant on on console because you can just max it out and the game will run at 60 frames if you put it in performance mode. But there is a slider for glossiness and chicness of, or sleekness of Leon's hair, which I think all games should have.
Yeah.
A hair slider. So you can go from block to ribbon to Leon. That's the scale.
Yeah.
Well, it's time to move on to a section that we've never done before. Glad you're back, Peter, so that we can all do it in the same room.
Okay.
Yep.
Ashton, I can't actually. There's an apostrophe in a weird place.
Oh,
Can you
sorry.
handle
Yeah,
this,
of
please?
course. It's what we playin.
It's what we play in time. Time to talk about the games, what we have been playing. Peter Austin.
Yeah.
What have we been playing?
I've been trying to remember what I told you about my Resident Evil progress last time. I've finished the game.
Okay.
And I don't think that's what I
No,
told you
you
last
got
time.
to a point where you'd accidentally
I
gone
left
to
the
the next
treasure
thing and
behind,
you'd left
yeah.
the treasure behind.
I finished it very soon after that podcast, actually. Like the next day or two, I did just sit down and finish it in about 2 more sessions because it is very addictive. And once I had lost that treasure, it meant I was slightly less bothered about going into every nook and cranny because I was like, well, you know what? I'm less than 100% treasures, so
What's the point?
flip it. What's the point? I did still get most of them, but yeah, I was a little bit less bothered about it. I completed every secondary objective though, which was good. Did you do any of the I can't remember how they word it, like serious threat or dangerous threat ones, where if you
like there's a
it's like a bounty for like
there's a wolf in this area.
Yeah.
Look, I went back and looked for that wolf and I couldn't find it.
I struggled to find the wolf at first, and it's because you go to the area where it tells you, and then it very briefly appears on the other side of a gate, which is back probably the way you've come in how to get there.
Okay.
And then you have to go through that gate and follow it to like 2 other points before it then appears to fight you.
Okay.
So
Sounds a bit Dark Souls quest to me.
right, yeah. So you track. I mean, it's not far, but you track the wolf. But there's there are some real spooky ones. There's like there's a golden knight in the area where you fight all the knights with Ashley.
I think I did take him.
It's
I
about
ended up
6.5 feet tall. or
going back
something.
through and killing all of those guys.
Yeah.
That's a spooky area,
It's
isn't
pretty
it?
spooky.
Yeah.
And then there's even a special version of the Regeneradors. You know, the breathy ones. Yeah. It's a really creepy way that they like post the objective as well. Like you pick up the piece of paper and it says, "Will someone please put that restless corpse out of its misery?"
I think I did do that one
wandering
actually.
around.
Yeah, I did. I did backtrack all the way down to go back into the spooky area to fight that.
And
thing.
it's really fast and has about 10 bugs inside it. It was
like it.
tough, but yeah, I really enjoyed that game a lot. And as you will now know, by the time this podcast goes out, I've decided not to continue streaming it solo. We're going to stream it as a group, partly because we like to stream horror games, and that seems a good one to stream, and also because I don't want to sit and play that game all over again by myself, not in a scared way, but just because it's a bit rich, you know. I feel like I've had that much
You've
of
had
it.
your full.
I have,
Your full?
yeah.
Your fill.
I haven't had any.
Exactly. So Ashton
Yeah.
Matthews is gonna kick some.
Ashton Matthews.
Yeah.
did you just say?
He's gonna kick some ass.
Wow.
Use.
That's new.
You're going to get mashed.
in
Yeah.
Resi 4. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought if we divide it by 3 and do 66% each, then
Yeah.
I'll be able to cope with it a bit better.
Yeah.
So I finished that, and then since then I've also played the first maybe 2 hours of Bramble, the Mountain King. We'll do a review corner on that in just a moment, but yeah, I've really enjoyed that.
Oh, good.
A little bit spooky, but also at times really like cute, almost saccharine, a bit sort of triny. Like I'll talk about it in a minute, but yeah,
Okay.
very very nice. And that's all I've been playing, I think. So Ashton,
I played a few things this week. I played some Minecraft Legends, which is the new one that came out recently. Boring.
oh,
Boring.
right,
Like, it kind of wasn't what I thought it was going into it. Like, what they'd shown was, like, really, like, fast-paced, and that, like, you can build up a little, like, kind of base, and the piglins will come and try and attack you.
piglins.
But we were playing it in co-op, and we were doing, like, the main story because we didn't want to play online against other people. And it's just kind of aimless. Like, at the beginning, you're kind of just meandering around from one village to the next village to the next village, and they're all like quite far away on the map. And then you've got all your little mates, and then you can like unlock things to get more resources, to get more little men in your army. And I mean, it's fine, but we were just like, so indifferent, and we stopped playing it. We were like, we're never coming back to this ever again, so let's just uninstall it. But yeah, it's just a bit boring. Like, it'd probably be fine for like a few hours if you've got like a kid with you, for sure. But not very interesting. And last night I finished Burning Shores, which is the Horizon DLC. I thought it was bloody great. I'd have to say though that I don't think as a DLC it's as strong as the first game's DLC. I think it's kind of lacking in a bit of substance. The boss fights are relatively fun. The story of the actual DLC itself is pretty interesting, and the characters that you meet are really nice and pretty. And and I just felt like there wasn't really much going on. I think there was maybe like 2 side quests in the entire DLC that took like 10 minutes to do each, one right at the beginning and one halfway through. And I thought, maybe once I've finished the story, there'll be more side quests, but there's not. There's none of that. There's also like, they kind of encourage you to explore on your own and find these collectibles, but they're not marked on the map. So whereas in the rest of the game, there's a question mark, there'll be something there. These collectibles aren't marked anywhere. So there's like a thing called like a Delver's something or other, and they're all these like Osseram Delvers that have died in various places around the map thanks to them like looking for this gold Haller that they're looking for. But you kind of just stumble upon them. They're not marked on a map or anything. Like Ayla will just be like, there's something in that cliff over there, and I'm like, what cliff? We're surrounded by like loads of cliffs, so I'm like looking around trying to find what she's talking about, which I don't love, given that kind of it's a big vast open world where there's lots of like ocean and also you're flying on a machine, but again, visually stunning, and they've really put a lot of effort into what it looks like, and there's lots of kind of tidbits to Hollywood and Los Angeles where you are. So yeah, I've really enjoyed the story of it. They have, I think, unfortunately, really are going to have to rewrite the third game because of obviously Lance Reddick's passing. Because the end of the DLC definitely sets up that like you and Silence are going to go and do this thing that they've kind of figured out together, and he's going to help you, and they kind of have a moment where they're like, we'll do it together. Like, you can't do this alone. Let's help each other out. And then I was like, oh no. So I'm not worried, but I feel bad for them in the sense that they're like going to have to figure out a way to respectfully remove Silence from the story, because no one's going to be able to recreate who Silence was, because Lance Reddick was just amazing.
Wasn't it his likeness as well?
Yeah, exactly. It looks just like him. And I just don't think that they would be disrespectful in using an AI to like put his voice together from all of the hours of voice lines that they've got from him. So I do think they're going to have to rewrite it, but I'm sure there'll be a way of doing that. So yeah, I enjoyed Burning Shores. I've still got to finish all of the bits and pieces to 100% it, and then I'll probably have to find something else to play. But there's lots coming out, so I'm sure there'll be something.
There's plenty coming out.
Yeah.
You also played Dead Island 2.
I did, but I'll talk about that in a minute.
I've played a few things, but nothing too substantial, because I've just sort of been killing time until Star Wars comes out yesterday at the time of release. We'll maybe be covering it in a review corner on next week's podcast, but we didn't get a copy in time, unfortunately, to discuss it.
We might not get a copy at all.
We might not get a copy at all. No, who knows? It can be an uphill battle sometimes. So I have played a little bit more Pokemon Gold, and I've been making my way through the Kanto region. And all the Pokemon I've caught so far, I went through the laborious task of taking them out individually from the PC and basically evolving all of them to complete their Pokedex entries as far as I could, apart from the ones that I had to trade to evolve. So I'm still chipping away at that here and there. I played Melbits, which is nothing to do with Mel B off the Spice Girls.
Mel B It's.
Get fit with Melbits.
It is a PlayLink game, a party game that you control with your telephones, and it's up to 4 players. And it's sort of like Lemmings in that you have you have the Melbits, who are these little monsters who sort of trudge aimlessly around this very colourful little puzzle world, and there's loads of different stages, and each player on their phone has a button to control something in the level, whether that's lowering a lift or raising a lift or rotating something or controlling a spring. And there's a couple of different paths usually where you can get like treasures for extra completion, but I think you need to get over half of them out to succeed, and it's pretty easy to just yeet them off the stage. And sometimes there are actual spooky enemies in there as well that you need to avoid, or like certain players need to put up walls because they're all walking their path as well to separate them and so on. So I had quite a fun time with it, but the people I was playing it with really struggled, and it just sort of devolved into, okay, purple, I'm gonna purple, no. There was also quite a bit of input delay on the phone. So you would press the button and then slightly too late, it would actually react to what you've done, which kind of ruined it a bit. But it seemed pretty fun. I'd be keen to give it another go with people who were, good at it. So maybe one day. I also want to thank everyone for supporting April so vehemently. Very successful horse month on Twitch. And as a result, I did get most of the trophies in BB and Tina Adventures with Horses. And I finished that off yesterday to get the rest of the trophies.
And
I thought you did the other one, the My Little Pony one.
I did the My Little Pony one on stream.
Oh, did you?
So I managed to do that all in one go. But BB and Tina, it was a two-parter.
And exclusive news coming next month, Maypril.
Yeah.
More
More
April.
of that.
More, even more. I don't even know what would Maypril be. It's April, but with a May twist.
No, it's
nothing to do with horses.
No.
And finally, I finished off Gears 5 in co-op, and it was fine. It sort of shoehorned in an emotional, dramatic twist at the end that I felt it felt kind of out of nowhere.
And unearned.
Yeah. I mean, the fallout of it felt unearned because the twist came from nothing, and it was a bit unexpected, and I wasn't a huge fan of that. And it also puts them in a difficult position where they're going to have to choose a canonical path to proceed with without going into any kind of spoiler territory. And so some people who played that game, their experience will not have been the correct one. I'll put that extremely vaguely. And it honestly, it doesn't sound like they're actually that far into making Gears 6 at the moment from some, like, what am I trying to say? Cursory glances around the internet. It seems they only maybe entered full production in the past few months. So Gears 6 still seems like it's quite a way away, even though Gears 5 was 4 years ago at this point. I did enjoy it on the whole. I enjoyed it more than Gears 4, but it's not as good as the original trilogy. I think the original trilogy is way better, and that seems to be a bit of a trend for Microsoft with their IP, with their big IP. The second Halo trilogy was nowhere near as good as the first trilogy, made by different people, and it's like people keep leaving, and it's tricky. I hope Gears 6 is good. I'll play it regardless, but I'm glad to be all caught up anyway. That's what I've been playing.
Wow, it's time now to head on over to Review Corner.
Let's go.
Hello, welcome to Review Corner. James, what are you doing in Review Corner?
I've snuck on in here. Hello.
James.
It's a weird corner, isn't it? It's nice.
Yes. We should say, actually, before we get started in this Review Corner, that though we were not paid to talk about this game, we were given this game by Nintendo.
That's right.
So it's not paid, but it is a hashtag ad thanks to the new rules and stuff.
As per ASA guidelines, we have to disclose that as technically a hashtag ad.
Exactly.
But we didn't get paid.
No.
Ignore that briefcase of money. It's fine.
All right, yeah. James, you have been playing a game the last few days over the weekend?
Yeah, a fair amount over the weekend. Yeah, it's been not too bad.
What game is it?
It's a game that's about 20 years old. Well, it's two games, actually. It's the remake of Advance Wars 1 and 2. So it's Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp.
Catchy name, baby.
It's a brilliant pun and also a really awkward name all in one. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's tactical RPG?
Yeah, well, not so much like RPG, I suppose, but it's that sort of, like same sort of vibe. It's like a turn-based tactics sort of thing. I
Right
guess.
up your alley.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's fantastic. This game is probably the reason why I like those things, because back in the day I played a lot of Advance Wars 2 specifically. And this game is fantastic in that it's such a faithful recreation of that, and the originals, the first and the second games, were classics in their own right, and this absolutely hits the mark. It's so good in that respect.
So it does live up to that nostalgic view that you had of the original game.
Yeah, it's nice. So obviously, if you're watching the video version, you'll notice that the visuals are a little bit different. So they've gone with a different art style. It's kind of like not quite chibi-esque, but it's similar to how they did the recent Zelda remake of Link's Awakening.
Right. Yeah.
And it's got almost like a toy box sort of aesthetic feel to it.
It's very bright and colourful from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's it. It's a very whimsical take on the grim subject of war, which is kind of funny, and that sort of translates to the characters, joking around and being not serious about this and still sending people to their deaths.
Yeah. You are still dying, but you're doing it in a lovely, colourful, cute manner.
Yeah. So this game obviously out on the Switch, it being a Nintendo product and all. $49.99 apparently the retail price is. Again, thank you for Nintendo for providing the code for that. But yeah, that's kind of important because I'll get onto that in a little bit because I'm not completely 100% praise on this, surprisingly.
No.
And this hurts because I absolutely love these games.
Right. Should we do the positives first?
Let's do the positives. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're not familiar, like I said, it's sort of turn-based tactics sort of game. Taking turns, you've got a nice grid, you've got various different units that you can recruit or you have from the start. Usually it's just, beat the opposition by killing every unit, or capturing their opposition HQ, and you have little infantrymen that are used to capture cities and bases and stuff. That provides your resources. It's quite a simple thing, and it's nowhere near as complex as some other games in this sort of genre. But that's what makes it so brilliant, because everything has its own counter, and it's just perfectly balanced. And with that, you also have your COs, your commanding officers, and they're all kind of Nintendo style, sort of quite wacky. They have their own personalities, and each have their own special
a big one
move.
And a girl one.
That's
and
right.
a small one, a skinny one.
Yeah, they have young, plucky newcomer, and then they have old, wise, veteran people. Yeah, and they all have different. So you'll start off with. I should say, with Advance Wars 1, I think there's 4 factions, and then with Advance Wars 2, it introduces a 5th. And they all have different things. So you might have your bonus to direct firepower units. You might have a bonus that's better with air units. You might have one which is cheaper or more expensive units, but they're also weaker and or stronger. There are a lot of different things there, and it's really cool.
Is it as tactical as, say, more modern tactical strategy games are? Because there is a lot of you have to actually really think about things, but given the art style, I would think it was easier. But is it, or is
honestly,
it still...
yeah. So that's one of the things that they have introduced, and it's to make it a little bit easier. So you've got a casual mode when you start a campaign. At least you have a casual mode and then a classic mode. I started with casual, and I quickly switched over to classics. I was oh yeah, I know what I'm doing now. Yeah, it's easy. And it's surprisingly more difficult than you might think. So, quite friendly exterior, and that's sort of matched if you're going through casual. But then you've also, for old veterans, going back to the games, you've got that classic difficulty there. And it's not as in-depth as, say, some intense games, but you've got that simplicity, but still a lot of variety in your tactics. So cool. It's a perfect balance, really, because those classic games got it absolutely nailed on. New features. I should mention. So they have added in a few extra things other than like the visuals look nice. They've added in like the main campaigns from 1 and 2. It's got a re-recorded soundtrack apparently, and voiced, some lines of voice, not all of them.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of cool. So a lot of like modern quality of life things that you might expect. So like online multiplayer is there. I've not tried that personally yet, but that looks interesting. You've got all the old classics as well. You've got like War Room, where you can just play any old map. You can just play a sort of couch co-op sort of thing, passing the controller back and forth.
Cool.
You've also got a few, so like map editor. I can't remember if there was in the previous games or not, but I believe that's potentially new. And you also have like a few extra little features where it's like you can fast forward, or you can like reset your current turn if you really fudge things up, which is possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some quite nice things. But I don't want to complain, but I feel like I should, because even though I love this game and nostalgia is a massive factor in that, it's £49.99.
Yeah.
Converted to dollars or your local
currency
of choice. And yet, for something that's claimed to have been like rebuilt from the ground up, they've not really included that much different in there. And that's a good thing, because I'm not asking them to like, reinvent the game, because it was already good to begin with, and that would take a lot of like tweaking and messing around with systems and whatnot. But there are like simple things that they could have included. So just one example I noted down was in similar games like Fire Emblem, you can, I think, hold down a button and you see all of the attack ranges of the enemy, which is kind of important. That's like a big part of the thing of like, okay, where can they attack me? I'm going to just sit right outside that and then hit them back. You can't do that with all of the enemy units. It's only like one at a time. So you just find that you're going through and holding down B on this unit and that unit. And yeah, that seems like such a simple thing that they could have included. And there are, no doubt, a lot more sort of simple. So like a one button, like end turn sort of thing, for example.
Yeah.
It feels like they have done, a lot for the visuals and whatnot, but they've also done a bare minimum in terms of like, yes, they've included online multiplayer.
Yeah.
And they've included some things that you expect them to do, but that's it. There's nothing where I've been like, oh, that's a really cool surprise. I didn't know that. And
they've kind of brought it into the modern era, but they've not innovated on it at all.
No, that's basically it. They've done like a few innovations, and it just feels like, and this is quite a slight concern, because if you liked the originals, you're gonna love this still anyway. And if you like other tactics-based games, haven't gone around to these, this is a perfect way to like jump in and experience it.
Yeah.
But I just feel like they've missed a trick.
Do you think, because of how many of this genre there is now out in the world, do you think that if a new player was like, oh, I'm going to try Advance Wars, that they would maybe struggle because of the like modernizations aren't necessarily all there?
I think, yeah, I know what you mean. So it's like a little bit of like the antiquatedness of it. Some of the things might seem a bit old hat. I think, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of that in here as well. But yeah, it's and another point as well, and this was brought up when I was talking to our wonderful editor Kieran. He mentioned, well, hang on, don't they do like Game Boy Advance like emulator system on Nintendo Switch Online? And they delayed this for several reasons, but they delayed it to the point where the GBA stuff is now playable on Nintendo Switch.
Right.
And so they might as well have just included that here, because the different innovations in this game, there's not quite enough there. But yeah, it's a weird one, and it feels wrong fundamentally inside for me to be complaining about this, but also because you're spending quite a lot on that, once again, it's Nintendo like banking on nostalgia.
Yeah.
And it's a shame in a way. But other than that, I mean, it is still very good, because the originals were very good. So yeah.
They've not messed them up.
No, exactly. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't take this as me, saying, oh, this is a bad game, like 1 out of 10. But No, it's very much. I mean, for me, probably like 9 out of 10 or something like that. But
Well,
adding arbitrary scores.
James, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
But yes.
There was a little tidbit about Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. If you're listening on the podcast feed, you can check out James's stream from the other week or potentially the video version of the podcast to see the game in itself. And now I believe we have another review corner that we're heading over to. A different corner of the room, would you believe?
Oh, bloody hell, she's over there. I can see him. Hello. Just waving.
Hi, me.
Hi. Hi, you.
And here we are in the other corner of the room doing a review corner, but James has been replaced by Peter.
James is over there. Ashton walked over here to this corner. Hello.
Hello. It was like one of those panning shots in a TV show where they like pan over and they go sit down with a whole new group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about something that I've played.
Okay.
I've been playing Dead Island 2. Now, I haven't played much of it.
Right.
Because the game came out last Friday and we got the code yesterday.
Okay.
So at time of recording. So I've not played too much, but I played a good few hours. Should say as well, again, not paid to talk about this game, but we were given it by Plaion and Dead Island 2 themselves. They've given it to us.
And the same applies for the next game we're going to talk about as well. So
exactly.
the same statement.
Yes. Yeah. So Dead Island 2 is the sequel to Dead Island OFS. And it's a open world-ish in the sense of like there's lots of different areas, but they're not kind of one big ginormous continuous open world.
Right.
So each area has like little offshoots and side things that you can find, side quests and stuff. But essentially the premise is very similar to the first game in that you choose a slayer, and I played as Amy, which is what if you're watching the video version you'll see the very beginning of the game as Amy. And
is she the one who's Irish but not Irish?
No, that's a different one.
Oh, right,
Amy's the one with the prosthetic leg.
Oh, yeah.
Her whole story is that she is trying to get out of Los Angeles because she's trying to like not audition, try out is the word I'm looking for the Paralympic team. Right. So she wants to get out of LA. So her whole thing is that she's got lots of stamina. She's really fast. She can keep fighting for longer. And she's in a plane crash at the beginning of the game. She gets bitten by a zombie and she figures out that she's immune.
Right.
So much like the first game, you are immune to the zombie bites, but obviously you can still get minced by zombies.
Yeah.
And she sets off to try and find a way out of LA, essentially looking for the authorities to be like, I'm immune. Right. And also help her and some people she meets very early on out of the situation. It plays exactly how you've seen it in the trailers. In the sense, it's a very hack and slashy. You pick up weapons, you hit enemies with them, they lose their durability.
Lots of blood. I
don't even know how much we're going to be able to show on YouTube, to be honest, without getting age restricted, because it's very gory and it's very bloody. There's a skill system that has like cards that you can slot in. So you've got like 4 or 5 different segments of your skills. You unlock the ability to put cards into each one of them as you go. And yeah, they're kind of very basic things like if you dodge, you get health back, or if you do damage, you take health back, that kind of thing. Also, one thing I did notice, there was a couple of little bugs. The game visually looks great, it's pretty stunning, but a couple of times it would give me like a prompt for something that either hadn't spawned when it was supposed to, or just wasn't there. So there was one time it was like, a zombie with an exclamation mark above the head will kill you instantly. Come back later to fight them off. Okay. And I was like looking around like, there's no zombies here. Right, okay. I killed everyone. I don't know what you're talking about. And then when I came back around, they had then spawned in, but they hadn't spawned in initially.
Right.
But yeah, there's all of these like big, so far I've only encountered like big kind of Hollywood mansions, and you've got like the content creator house, kind of like these stereotypical like old school movie star. And then all of these houses have kind of little puzzles in them. So you might find a key card on a zombie either in the area or a little bit later on to open things in this house that you can't access unless you have this key card.
Okay, so there's like what's the word? Kind of like it encourages you to revisit places.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. So I've only played it in single player so far, but you can play it in co-op, and it pretty much opens into co-op as soon as you finish the first main mission.
Right.
And yeah, like I say, it's so far it's been pretty fun, and I've enjoyed playing it. I'm going to hold off playing it until I can play it in co-op because I think it's going to be more fun with a pal. I died so many times immediately. Like I was just getting my ass beat before we'd even really kicked off into the game.
Right.
But it's not that bad. I just wasn't playing very well. But the controls are interesting. Like I say, if you like Dead Island, you're going to probably like this. It's just a very much a refined, visually like built up version of the first Dead Island.
Right.
So
I did play the first one, and I thought it was all right. I don't think it had like the longevity. Like I couldn't bring myself to sit with it all the way through. But I did enjoy it, like gameplay wise, for what it was. So.
Yeah, I think that I think it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think that. Like you said, I don't know if it had the longevity of like other games that are coming out around the same time. I think it will get lost among, the Jedi Survivors, Redfall when that releases, with Zelda coming out next month. I think it's going to kind of be forgotten this year. But for what it is, it's turned out pretty nice and it plays pretty well.
Yeah.
So I can't complain too much.
Okay. Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Ashton.
That's no problem.
Can I tell you a little bit about Bramble the Mountain King?
I wish you would.
Well, I will. It was the code was sent to us by, I think, directly from Dimfrost Studio, or possibly the PR who represent them. Citation needed. Apologies for that, but I can find out and get Fraser to write it in the description if it's wrong. But Dimfrost Studio is the publisher. This is an interesting game. A demo was released when it was kind of first shown off at, I think, some... was it one of the PlayStation showcases, or was it?
Sure, it might have been either the Game Awards or potentially
it might have been the Game Awards, actually.
Gamescom or something.
Yeah, it was a while ago now. I didn't play the demo at the time, so I can't really think when it was. But Ben played it and said he was intrigued by it. And this is... I mean, it's right up my street, actually. It's kind of... It's like a combination of Little Nightmares... Limbo, and there are sort of like Trine elements to it as well. I mean that in a positive sense. I know we've like played Trine to death on our joint streams, and now we sort of hate it in a way because we've had so much of it. But all the good things about Trine, well, like aesthetically is what I'm talking about really, because it is based on sort of Nordic folklore. In fact, I meant to look up specifically if like what kind of the folklore origins are, whether it is like a particular nation or if it's just kind of Scandinavian in general.
I feel like Scandinavian sounds correct. Like I think from what we saw with the marketing, it kind of reminds me of the art style a little bit of The Last Guardian as well, kind of that.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. It's very kind of organic and like natural, and there's it all takes place in like an enchanted forest basically, and there are all kinds of creatures that you encounter along the way. Some of them are more kind of like familiar things, like so there's trolls and gnomes, which we I was going to say Western, and we're talking Western anyway, but we English speaking people will have heard of Nordic folklore, it says here. So there you go. But then there are some like more specific characters, like for example, I got pretty much as far as encountering the Naken, which is someone who kind of sits by the water and plays a violin, and it like enchants you into dancing, and that's how they capture you. And he's like this sort of creepy evil man. But yeah, so it's based on Nordic folklore, and you're in this magical forest. You play as Ole. It's quite the pronunciation's quite. There's a narrator who like talks about the children who are in the game, and sometimes she seems to say like Ole, and then sometimes she's saying like Ola, and I don't know, she's got an interesting accent, but you're something like that. And your sister is called Lillamore, and you kind of go off exploring the forest together, and then you end up getting separated, and it's kind of your job to go and save her. I don't know if like maybe halfway through we're going to be brought back together again, and then there'll be some other objective for me to complete, but certainly at the moment in the first act I've been separated from her, and it's up to me to go and rescue her. And it plays mostly like something like Little Nightmares or Limbo, in that there's a lot of platforming and puzzle solving.
Yeah.
But there's also an element of it kind of... Some of the puzzles aren't just like physics-based things where you have to get past a trap or move some kind of movable object. Like sometimes I've done a couple of things that I didn't enjoy so much. So I've had to like herd these like little flower children into specific areas, and like herding stuff in video games is never fun. And also there was this sort of like hide and seek moment where I had to find 8 gnomes who were hidden in all this long grass, and they were really hard to spot.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a few like little things like that where I'm like, I'd rather just be like running around and platforming and stuff.
I'd rather drag a box.
Yeah, exactly.
Jump on box.
Exactly, that kind of stuff. So that is largely what you are doing.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, it is a lot like Little Nightmares or Limbo. But also in the sense that it can get really dark in places and like really gory and spooky. And I knew that like the way they presented it in the marketing, you could tell that it had this like darkness to it and this edge to it. But then once you start the game, it is quite sweet in a lot of places, and there's like lots of really beautiful vistas. It looks great actually a lot of the time. And I was thinking like, is this going to get like actually that dark? Are we just going to occasionally encounter a bit of a slightly evil character or something, a bit of a monster, and that's going to be the worst of it? But no, like you're wading through like viscera at times.
Oh, really?
And, like,
yeah, that's definitely not kind of forefront of the marketing for sure.
Exactly. So there's bits like that, and it does go places. If that's what you're wanting to get out of this game, it will take you there.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there are also, as I say, some really nice moments. Like there was a bit where it's like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's horrible and then it gets nice again. And I like that in a way, because generally these games just get worse and worse and worse as they go on.
Gives you a bit of levity every now and then.
But it gives you the levity. And there was a bit where I had to just like, Amy was upstairs and I was like, Amy, you need to come and look at this. And it's because I was riding on the back of a hedgehog around this like beautiful forest, and it was playing this really nice music. And she just came downstairs and she just like was standing with her mouth open staring at the screen. She didn't say anything. And she was like, what is this game? And I was like, oh, it's Bramble. You have to play it. So yeah, it can be very nice, very sweet, also very horrific. But it looks fantastic. It plays pretty well, other than a couple of these sort of like little mini games. And there's lots to encourage you to replay it as well. So there's like little collectibles and like little statuettes that you can find, and also books that will tell you about some of the folklore aspects, which I was pleased about, because for the first sort of half hour or first hour, I was like, oh, you can see they've taken all this inspiration, but I, as an English person, don't know specifically what I'm dealing with here. But actually, then I found this collectible book that told me about the Nakan and the whole folktale around
that's
him.
pretty cool.
And I imagine there are going to be more of those as I go on. So. This is a lot of fun, especially for an indie title. I think this is worth giving a go, especially if you are into the likes of Limbo or Inside or Little Nightmares, like I am.
Is it out now?
It's out now, yes. By the time this podcast goes out, the game will be available.
Is it on everything?
I think it's on a lot of things,
Yeah.
I think it's PlayStation, Xbox, PC, whether it's on Switch as well, I'm not sure. There doesn't appear to be a Wikipedia page for it, which is I found a bit difficult. It's on Steam.
We'll just say it's probably on everything.
It's probably on everything. Apologies to Dimfrost for not giving the full details there, but it's certainly available on PlayStation, Steam, and I suspect at least Xbox, if not also Switch, but cannot confirm. Apologies for that.
Well, that's okay. Well, there was our review corners for today. There was 3 of them, so I hope you enjoyed them, and we'll head back to the regular podcast now.
Yeah, let's.
Well, wasn't that nice?
Yeah.
We heard about 3 games. We haven't had a review corner in ages, and now there was 3. So
waiting for a bus.
Hope you like them. We had fun, ? Not done them yet, so maybe we had not a good time.
Maybe it'll go
I'm
well
not
for
sure.
it.
Yeah. But now it's time for question 2, and it comes from Steve. Hello, you beauties. I was wondering when you have played a game that is totally different to anything you've played before, not including games you've had to review or quip. I recently played Life is Strange True Colors and absolutely loved it, and it caught me massive by surprise because I've never played anything like it. Stay safe. Love you. Bye. Steve.
Thanks,
Steve.
I brought a couple of games. It's been a while since, as far as I can remember anyway, since I've played anything completely new and different. So I couldn't think of a more recent example, but I've got one game that I have already gushed about many, many times, and then one that I've not. So the one that you know that I like is the Orcs Must Die series. I never played any tower defense games before then. And then along comes this game that even like in itself is kind of a unique thing in that it combines the tower defense with the third person kind of hack and slash and shooting and stuff. But in any case, I wasn't really that familiar with tower defense. I'd like seen other people play games like that on YouTube and gave it a go, and I really, really liked it. So Yeah, that probably counts. But then also, years ago, I went to the game shop, and I don't know about you, Ben. Did you sometimes, you would like save up all your money, and then you'd be like, I've got enough now I could go and buy a game. And like often there would be a specific game that maybe you were going for. But sometimes I would go to the game shop. Don't know about you, Ashton, as well. Did you even go to game shops? Or did you buy,
I had my DS.
Of course you did.
So I'd go to the DS section.
It goes to the DS section. But I would sometimes go to the game shop, and if there wasn't something for me to buy specifically that I wanted, I would just pick
You
something.
couldn't leave empty-handed.
No, exactly. And so I picked one that I don't know what made me pick it up, but it was it's called Locomotion, or Chris Sawyer's Locomotion, if you want to get why does it have the name of the guy in it about this.
Who's Chris Sawyer?
The guy who came up with Locomotion, I guess.
The inventor of trains.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Sid Meier. It is like that. It's Chris Sawyer's Locomotion. But it is essentially the same game as Transport Tycoon Deluxe, or as it is now quite popular, Open TTD, Open Transport Tycoon Deluxe, which is like the open source one.
He's the tycoon guy, Transport Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, he did Roller Coaster Tycoon
That
as well.
I guess maybe he was like, I should take my name off them because people are like, who's Chris Sawyer?
Or maybe he put his name specifically on Locomotion because it wasn't called Transport Tycoon.
Maybe, yeah.
But anyway, I bought this game, and I don't really know what like drew me to it, but I sat down and played it, and it was a tycoon game, but you're not building roller coasters, you're just building like roads and train tracks and stuff, which sounds really boring.
Right.
But was actually surprisingly fun and interesting. So it will generate this open, like top-down map, isometric, with a load of random towns and also industries. So there'll be like a coal mine over there and a factory here and stuff. And like, you know that the factory needs coal for to fuel its like stuff. And you can like build a train track to get the coal there. And then you take the product of that factory like out to somewhere else, someone who wants to use that. So you just build all these like literally just transport networks with roads and like buses moving people around from towns to towns. And it was like really, really fun. It was the only kind of management sim game I played that didn't have some kind of combat in it. Because, you know, I'd played plenty of Command and Conquer, and I can't even think of Stronghold. I used to play a lot of Stronghold. But that one was new to me, to play something like that didn't have any combat in it. And surprisingly, a lot of fun. I've not played OpenTTD since it's become a big trendy thing, and a lot of people stream.
You played it before it was cool.
I played it before it was cool, exactly. When it was called Locomotion. But
Chris Sawyer's Locomotion.
Chris Sawyer's Locomotion. Let's not forget
Respect
Chris.
on his name.
But yeah, surprisingly entertaining. And I played it for many years, on and off. And my dad enjoyed it as well. It was one of the few games that my dad would sit down and have a play with as well. Ashton, what about you?
I have a few, but they're quite recent ones. I have never really been into a strategy turn-based situation. I find them boring, and most of the time I just find the art style entirely uninteresting. But I played Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle on a plane when I was going somewhere or other, because MB had been playing it, and he was like, you might enjoy this, give it a go. And I spent the like 3.5 hours on the plane just playing Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and didn't talk to Ben at all. I was like, I'm playing the game, please. And I really enjoyed it, and I played the whole way through that game, and I've played the more recent one, Sparks of Hope, as well. And I thought it was great. I had a lot of fun playing it. I haven't really played any other turn-based games because I have to find them interesting before I even go in. Like, if it doesn't interest me, as soon as I start playing, it's in the bin. I'm not interested.
In the bin?
It's in the bin.
Crikey.
In the metaphorical bin. Most games I don't have the ability to put in the bin because they're on a digital thing.
Yeah.
And also, weirdly, like kind of last year, I started playing Evil Genius 2. It came onto Game Pass. It was not my kind of game at all. Like, I don't really spend time with the sim kind of games because I don't have the attention span. And
apart from The Sims.
But that's mainly just build house, and then I abandon house and Sims that I've made for the rest of eternity. But yeah, Evil Genius 2, I think I'd seen Sips play it like 6 months before when it originally released. And I was like, that looks interesting. Well, I got obsessed with this game for like a good month, and I was just playing it all the time. I would sit in complete silence, just in my flat, just playing Evil Genius, setting up like big bank vaults and stopping people from trying to rob me. And my boyfriend was like, I don't understand why you're playing this game. Like, you've never expressed any interest in anything similar to this at all. But I don't know why I played it, but I really enjoyed playing it and I had a good time. I haven't touched it since. It's still installed on my PC, but I've just never gone back to it. So it's a good game, and I don't think I'll ever play it again. But for the time, I had a great time. So yeah.
I don't like roguelikes. I've never liked roguelikes. However, with Returnal, I was willing to make an exception because I liked Housemarque very much. I enjoyed Resogun and Super Stardust in particular, and this was their first proper game rather than sort of a digital download arcadey kind of thing. This like had a story and it had voice acting and it seemed mysterious and dark, and it drove me up the bloody wall for like the first 4 hours I played it. And because I was playing it as soon as it came out, I ran into a lot of issues that were sorted in subsequent patches, like not being able to save during a run and come back to it later, and progressing halfway through a run, entering one of these randomly placed rooms, and then the other side of the randomly placed room, the door wouldn't open. So I was then trapped inside and had to restart the run because the game had bugged out. But it ended up being a game that I really, really enjoyed. And did I get good at it? I'm not sure. Maybe I just got proficient or found the weapons that I like to use the most and sort of brute force my way through. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, I did end up getting the platinum trophy in it. And that was the first roguelike/roguelite. They're interchangeable, but I know they have different definitions. That I actually actively enjoyed, and off the back of that, I gave Hades a go, and I never would have done that either if I hadn't played Returnal first.
Did you see that Andrew got through Returnal with like 7 deaths?
I didn't see that.
He tweeted being like, "I'm such a pro gamer," and he managed to make it that whole way through Returnal with I think it was under 10 deaths.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I think I died 10 times before we even got to the second.
First time playing it.
I'm going to see if I can find the tweet because I read it
nuts.
and I was like so jealous that I don't even think I liked the tweet because it annoyed me so much.
I didn't see that tweet. However, I did see that he was playing it, and I was on the mobile app for PlayStation, and I sent him a message saying, "Don't die." And then I said, like a couple of seconds later, I sent him another message saying, "Did you die?" And he replied, "I did actually." Yeah.
He said, "Feeling very pro gamer good right now. Finished the main story of Returnal with 17 deaths and beat every boss on the first try apart from the third boss, which I did on my second try."
Wow.
Very good.
We didn't even make it past the first boss when we played it. Well, we did, and then I died immediately when I got to the second area.
Were you playing in co-op?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It is. I feel like it's definitely harder in co-op.
It is because you share lives, right? I think,
If there aren't already enough reasons to have Andrew as a member of TripleJump rather than Cultaholic.
It's clearly the best gamer
He
out
was
of all of us.
if you're unfamiliar with the story, he applied for TripleJump and Cultaholic, but he wanted to work for TripleJump primarily as a gamer boy, and then Sam from Cultaholic saw his work and stole him from under us.
Before we were able to say, "We'll take him," they said, "We'll take him."
Yeah, so we don't have Andrew, but he's good at games. He's good at games. But yeah, I'd say Returnal. I've got a couple of other ones noted down here as well. But I think in terms of trying a new genre that I've never tried before, Returnal was the gateway drug. However, I still have no interest in roguelikes because I find them kind of irritating. But Returnal was the one that got me in there. Well, it's time for something a little bizarre. You could even call it weird, maybe strange, maybe weird. Could it be weird?
I think it might be a bit weird.
News? Weird news?
It's weird news.
It's weird news time. Time for some weird news. Remember, if you want to submit weird news to us, you can do so on Twitter and Facebook on the post that goes up on a Tuesday. However, if you want to guarantee a shout out at this point in the podcast, you need to go to patreon.com/Team TripleJump, support us at a certain tier and become a podcast producer, just like
Nathan,
GY Goliath,
Nexus Polaris,
Duncan Wilson,
Blake Thomas,
Ellie Nicholas,
Nicole Hansen,
Melody Elbonet,
Katie Garrett,
and Gabrielle Philipping.
Thank you,
podcast producers.
You got some weird news there, Peter.
We've got some weird news here that was sent to us via Twitter from It's Cold in New Mexico at Ariel_Kent.
Okay.
It's
Put a
according...
hat on.
Yeah, just put a hat on.
Just one.
Yeah.
It's according to Kotaku.com, written by Ashley Bardham, who says, Twitch streamer immediately denied from bank after accidentally applying as a certain job. I'll tell you in a minute. Variety streamer Pooper Noodle learned about euphemisms the hard way.
Oh, no.
Did you apply as an accountant?
As a pooper. No, it does say that at the end of the article, though, about... I think that's apparently a thing that some people say.
Yeah, so if you're a
accountant.
sex worker, people online, you say, I'm an accountant, because like that's like a go-to. If someone says, oh, what do you do? If you say you're an accountant, no one asks any other questions
Right.
because their accountant's boring.
Yeah.
So if you don't want people to know that you're a sex worker, you say, oh, I'm an accountant.
Well, let's see where this article goes. United Kingdom-based variety streamer Pooper Noodle, or Lou, wasn't exactly sure whether or not being a human adult with a Twitch channel qualified her as an online adult entertainer
Oh, no.
until she described herself as such on a bank application and was swiftly denied.
Well, that's a mistake because banks should know that makes that people who are that make a lot of money.
Well, yeah. Quote, a few months ago, I applied to a very popular bank. She's a UK streamer, so it's probably a bank that we know of, that allows you to use your card overseas, she said during a recent stream. It asked me what my occupation was, and nothing really fit the bill apart from adult online entertainer, and I ticked that. Now, I watched the clip of her explaining this, and it doesn't... Oh, yeah, it does say it here, actually. So she starts laughing at the memory and then says, I was like, yeah, that's what I am. I'm an adult, and I entertain people online. And then it immediately rejected me, she says. She tells me over Twitter DM, says the writer of this article, that she didn't realize adult entertainer was a euphemism for sex worker until talking about the situation with her mom, who pointed it out to her.
It's very innocent, isn't it?
Yeah. I was mad because if they meant sex worker, then why didn't they just write sex worker, she said. I'm not a sex worker myself, but it opened my eyes to how it sucks for sex workers to get a bank account. I've probably got to stop saying that phrase now, otherwise YouTube might
Wex
Say
circa.
hear me
accountant.
saying. I'll say accountant. It also reinforced how after a decade of online influencers breaching mainstream culture through brand deals and Disney Channel, and that hyperlinks to the Wikipedia article for not Logan Paul, his
Jake
brother,
Paul.
Jake Paul.
Oh,
Apparently, he was on a Disney Channel
Yeah,
show.
Bizarrevark, he was on that.
Right, I didn't know that.
I don't know how I knew the name of that so quickly. I couldn't even
Bizarrevark.
think of the word charity a minute ago. Like, Jesus Christ.
The bureaucratic powers that be still don't really know what the hell influencing is. It's pretty awkward explaining the job to people, Lou said. The bank application gave me a drop-down list of job options to choose from, and they were all very socially accepted jobs, like dentist assistant. There was no option for streamer or broadcaster or anything like that. Other members of the unconventional job field related to Lou's confusion. They related to her.
Okay.
That was confusingly worded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other members of that field can relate to her confusion.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I tried to explain to people that I streamed in the past in a way which sounded almost identical to calling myself an adult entertainer, said one Twitter user. It was really awkward when their response/tone made it clear that they misunderstood. When in doubt, go for self-employed, says the article, or even better, an accountant. And then it links to what Ashton was just saying.
Yeah.
Right. Blimey.
It is hard though when you've got a job like this because it's like whenever you fill in a thing, it's like, what field do you work in? And I'm like,
I just put media.
Yeah, I do too.
It's just the easiest
But-
way.
Yeah, I was applying for life insurance recently now that I'm married. And it was really, very difficult to find anything relevant. Sometimes you go to these drop-down boxes and there is something there. There's like broadcaster or, video production or something. But sometimes there's just absolutely nothing at all. We had to put something really strange as the nearest thing.
When do we get to go on the Disney Channel?
Yeah, I don't know.
When we are big and strong like Jake Paul.
Yeah, he's the biggest and the strongest.
Yeah, and the
worst.
most yeah, and the best person. It got dropped by Disney Channel very quickly. Like
Is it because he's a terrible person?
They did the show
That's weird,
Bizarre
isn't
Park.
it?
I think they had one season. He did his typical Jake Paul does terrible thing trend, and he
Right.
got sacked.
Which he is known to do most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if it was part
That
of the whole
is a shocker.
terrorizing his neighbors, or if it was something he said online that was clearly problematic.
I tell you what, though, once we land this killer role in a Wales interactive game,
Yeah.
we're gonna get shot to superstardom.
That's all I want, really. I don't want a music channel. I just want to be in a Wales interactive game.
That's my Disney Channel.
And then we
Yeah.
can take up boxing, right?
Yes, we could all box each other like tomorrow if we wanted.
Yeah.
And at least someone from the office would pay a $5 to come. And then whoever wins gets the $5, and then you're a professional fighter.
Yeah,
Wow.
true. Okay, I have some weird news. It's nothing
on.
to do with Jake Paul. Comes
Good.
from Nintendo Life, written by Ollie Reynolds.
Yeah.
Random. Anti-smoking campaign is part Animal Crossing, part creature horror. As if you needed further convincing to not smoke. Animal Crossing isn't particularly known for being scary. In fact, the scariest thing about New Horizons is the fact that the official support for the game ceased after little less than 2 years. Yet this hasn't stopped content studio Sawhorse utilising the general aesthetic of the franchise for a rather spooky anti-smoking commission for the US Food and Drug Administration. I don't know how they've got away with this, but
Does it look just like it?
yeah, I'll show you in a sec. Uploaded onto its official website and subsequently archived on YouTube, the ad campaign is a visual representation of the anxiety that can arise from nicotine cravings. It showcases a cute Animal Crossing-inspired character hopping into bed before a fiery smoke monster rises up from the floor. It's definitely effective at what it sets out to portray, yet the choices to use the visual style for Animal Crossing is certainly surprising. It's highly unlikely, however, that despite Nintendo's fierce protection of the IP, the company will not take any action against the ad, given the lack of any specific identification or branding. Heck, the characters seen in Bandai Namco's Ace Angler fishing sprites, almost exact replicas of those found in Animal Crossing. This is the advert.
Okay.
I'll turn it so there's no sound because there's probably copyrighted music.
Oh wow, yeah, that is Animal
Animal
Crossing.
Oh yeah,
isn't
that was
it?
just Animal Crossing.
But it's
Okay.
all legally distinct.
So hopping
She
into
gets
bed.
into bed. There's smoke
Oh.
coming out from
Yeah,
under her.
that's literally an Animal Crossing face, isn't it?
Yeah.
A choice of eyes. Well, the smoke monster's not very Animal
No,
Crossing.
it's
No.
not. Spooky.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Looks like the Balrog.
Yeah.
Although,
And then
surely this should be aimed at vape pens rather than cigarettes. I don't feel like young
True.
people are smoking that much anymore.
Not as much, but you do still. That's what baffles me the most is when you see someone smoking cigarettes who is like young enough to, you know, that they've just taken it up like within the past like year or two because that's how young they are. And it's like, how do you not know better? Well, I guess because there's educational issues and like, you know, people
That's why those
and social
videos are
pressures
coming out.
and yeah.
Yeah, what you vaping? Try a real nicotine
Yeah.
stick or something. You know, kids are the worst. That would probably be real
vaping is
to
really
someone.
bad.
God,
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, but it's pretty spooky and it's definitely like this is Animal Crossing.
Definitely Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one from Blake Thomas off of Facebook.
Oh, I forgot to say, mine was submitted by Stephen Skoders on Twitter and Josh Lee's on Facebook.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Thank you. Mine comes from Gizmodo. An NES cart with built-in Wi-Fi brings online multiplayer to a 40-year-old Nintendo console.
Wow.
Wow.
In the 80s, multiplayer video games required you and your friends to crowd around a single TV and fight over who got to use one of two controllers. Modern consoles let you compete against gamers all around the world, but a new cartridge is bringing that same online functionality to the NES 40 years later. While most kids... Get out of here. Pop up. Go away. Go away. While most kids who grew up with the NES wouldn't learn about the internet until the 90s, the Japanese version of the console, the Famicom, actually offered limited internet connectivity through the Family Computer Network system that debuted in Japan in 1988. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. It was not a commercial success, and it's definitely not how Super Tilt Bro handles its online connectivity. Given Nintendo doesn't produce cartridges for the NES anymore, the Super Tilt Bro cart is a custom creation with a board that's been upgraded with a something Wi-Fi chip, a Wi-Fi antenna, and an FPGA that allows an unmodified NES console to interface with the wireless hardware.
Wow.
The platform fighter game, which looks like a streamlined recreation of Super Smash Bros. Featuring chibi-style characters, includes all of the Wi-Fi configuration within the game's own menu system, given the NES has no front end of its own, as well as match settings allowing players to compete for fun, for rank, or to set up their own tournaments by creating and sharing private passwords with friends. So there we are. That's the Wi-Fi is sort of coming to the NES now, if you want it. They are seeking backing on Kickstarter. The link will be in the dump if you want. What?
Why?
Because they're making it
Yeah,
themselves.
I know, but who's gonna donate to that?
Nerds.
People might.
You will, watching.
Nerd.
That's a
Nerd. You nerd. Go on. Support the things you enjoy. I bet you enjoy games, don't you, nerd?
Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you, nerd.
No. No, but that will absolutely be 100% someone's niche.
Yeah,
and I
but I
imagine a
also
lot of outlets will want to try it.
Yeah, I guess, but it just makes me think like I didn't say how much they were asking for, but I just don't like we see things for like current consoles don't manage to get funded. I know that nostalgia is a big
it's a
moneymaker,
curiosity.
so I guess
isn't it?
maybe
people will buy one just to have it in a box on their shelf. Like, that'll let me take my NES online if I could be asked.
I just wonder whether like there are even enough NESs out there to kind of warrant.
Maybe not.
You know, if it was a slightly more contemporary console and they said, "Hey, we've added online functionality to," you know, I don't know. I guess the GameCube may have
the PS1.
Yeah, PS1 might maybe something like that. Then you know, there's a lot more PS1s knocking around. Like NESs that still work. How many are there really?
Yeah, true. I think largely they're in lofts or the hands of collectors or the people who originally owned them.
I mean, then again, that kind of hardware lives forever, doesn't it? It's like a lot of it just still works. A lot of PS2s out there still work, whereas PS3s and PS4s are dead. Xbox 360s. So you know, sometimes it's the oldest stuff that is still kicking.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there were modest expectations set for this, and the people who are making it are just doing it because they can.
Yeah,
they think it's,
well,
they
exactly.
think it's
That's why
interesting.
you're doing
and
it, because you can.
There'll be an influx of maybe a few hundred people the first weekend it releases, and then no one will really play it again.
Yeah,
But
they're not
it'll
doing it to make
it's
millions.
Like this,
but...
Look at this thing. This can take my NES online. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, isn't it?
It is cool. We've got a question here from Stuart Ward, who says, "Greetings, people. Do you think services such as Game Pass and PS Plus, etc., have, at least to some extent, diminished the viability of selling consoles as part of game bundles? I'm not sure what the situation is elsewhere in the world, but here in Australia, for some time, it's been nigh on impossible to buy a standalone Xbox Series X console, as Microsoft, and by extension third-party retailers, have instead been flogging the plops out of selling the console as part of a Forza Horizon 5 bundle. I've bought 5 consoles in the past as part of game bundle packages, but in this particular instance, I don't see the point of paying a $100 premium to get a digital download code for a game I already access for no additional cost via Game Pass, just because it comes with DLC I had no interest in playing in the first place. Thank you for bringing your silly content into the world."
Thank you, Stuart.
I made it. I got through that.
That was really good.
Thanks, Ashton. So, I mean, it's been a long time since I've bought a console that came bundled with a game. I don't think my certainly not my PS5, and I don't think my PS4 did either. But yeah, I can definitely see the point here, which is that if it's the fact that you're struggling to find just the option to get it on its own that is like the frustrating thing there, because you know, if you had one or the other, then yeah, anyone who's like genuinely really interested in Forza Horizon 5 and the DLC, then yeah, they can get that bundle and that's great. But the problem isn't necessarily that exists, it's that it's so difficult to just get a standalone one, which I've never really like known that to be an issue. Even back in the days when I was buying bundled consoles, there always seemed to be the option to just get a standalone one if you wanted to. So I just feel bad for you, son, and other people in Australia.
Nerds.
And other people in Australia and perhaps in other nations as well, maybe facing this issue. That's frustrating to like have to basically pay a premium for something that you don't need. I mean, like the way that Game Pass and PS Plus factors into it as well. I mean, by definition, games that are going to come bundled with consoles in those bundle deals are generally going to be like big name first party games, and those games also, therefore, by definition, are going to be the sort of thing that is on Game Pass. So there's kind of like an unavoidable crossover there. But then on the other hand, you would hope that you'd like to think that Microsoft would make the decision or be smart enough to think, oh well, are people going to want to pay a premium for like this specific game when you can already get it on Game Pass. So I don't know. At least the DLC in this case is something that you are getting as an extra. But I'm not sure. Like, it's certainly not the primary the primary issue when you think of Game Pass and PS Plus as something that is going to cause problems to people. Like, oh, is it going to affect bundled consoles? But the fact that you're struggling to find a standalone, that seems to be more the problem than the fact that Game Pass exists, I would say.
When I bought my PlayStation 5 last year, the only console I could find came bundled with an extra controller.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have to pay for an extra controller. I'd rather have just paid for the PlayStation 5 because I did not need a second controller. But I didn't have a choice. But I wanted a PlayStation 5, and that was all that was on option. Or, like you say, with it bundled in with a game that I either wasn't going to play or that I had already played or had already ordered. And I do think that potentially the bundling is good for like the odd Christmas present for like a kid, for example. But I think the average gamer nowadays is kind of doesn't really want a bundled in. They just want the console because there's so much more you can get on the console than just like the game itself. And obviously the game's sometimes maybe a bit cheaper as part of a bundle, but you have a lot more flexibility when it comes to getting the games elsewhere. I do think, however, that the idea of cloud gaming and digital downloads are maybe the thing that's killing the bundle, because I think that if you could only get games in physical copies that in disc form that you had to go to the game shop with your pocket money like Peter used to do and buy your game, I think a bundle would be great because it's a 2 for 1 shop, not gonna come back later to get a different game. Brilliant. But nowadays with the digital download and the digital storefront and cloud gaming, it's so much easier to just like access it as soon as you get home. You've not got to really worry about having to put the disc in and get that plastic off the disc, put the disc in, wait for the disc to install the game. Obviously, you've still got to install the game, but you can have pre-bought it, have it ready to go before you even got the console. So I do think that it is. I'm not killing it. I don't think it's necessarily like there's the Venn diagram does not necessarily overlap, and the causation of one is not. They don't really connect. But I do think that a bundle-in is kind of a dying trend. Whether that's to do with cloud gaming or not, I'm not sure. So,
I do think it's interesting that Xbox in particular is seemingly doubling down. I haven't bought a console bundle in a long time, and the last one I probably got was the PS4, which came with Killzone Shadowfall, or the Switch that we have that came with Super Mario Odyssey, except that was a digital code, not a physical game in there. I'd say the issue that Stuart's talking about definitely applies more to Xbox than PlayStation, because PS Plus and its various tiers are not equatable with Game Pass in any way, particularly in regards to the fact that a PlayStation console could still conceivably be bundled with an exclusive, and that would make perfect sense because those are not available
those
on
PlayStation Plus by and large, whereas on Game Pass all of those exclusives are day one on Game Pass. So perhaps it makes more sense for Xbox bundles to be with big third-party titles. I'm not entirely sure, but you're right in that the core gaming audience will know if you're going to go and buy an Xbox, you probably just want the Xbox because Game Pass is the best deal. You don't necessarily want a physical game that you're going to pay extra for that you can just get on Game Pass, as Stuart says. So I imagine that they still do it because it's recognizable to people who aren't in that conversation and who don't necessarily really know what Game Pass is, or even if they don't want to sign up for another subscription, they just want the Xbox, and then they get a game right out of the gate. They can make a decision later, and it looks shiny on the shelves to have a console with like half the box taken over by fluorescent Forza branding and stuff. It just looks attractive and appealing. But you're right in that I think Game Pass does impact the appeal of bundles. But as far as PlayStation goes, I don't think it's necessarily the same because their deal is different. There we are. Hope you managed to get a console on its own. And of course, bundles don't really... I suppose they could apply to the Series S, couldn't they? because if
it's
they
a
give away
digital
digital
code,
code, then
yeah.
that could work. But even so, it's a bit of a stretch. Anyway, let us know what you think. For now, though, it's time for the big discussion. Big discussion time for the big discussion, and the story, the saga, simply will not end. We'll be hearing about this until the heat death of the universe. This question comes from Jack Bradshaw on Patreon. Ahoy hoy Bap, hope you're all well. What are your guys' thoughts on the Activision-Microsoft merger being rejected by UK regulators? So that was the big story this week. The latest twist in the tale. I've got a write-up here from VGC. Bear with me. It will explain what is going on at the current time. After months of investigation, the regulator published its final report on the $69 billion deal on Wednesday and said it had prevented it over concerns it would alter the future of the fast-growing cloud gaming market, leading to reduced innovation and less choice for UK gamers over the years to come.
That's what we said.
The decision is the most significant yet in Microsoft's battle to get the acquisition over the line. The UK regulator is seen as one of the most influential in deciding the deal's fate alongside the EU and the US. In the US, the Federal Trade Commission is suing Microsoft in a bid to block the deal over competition concerns, and the EU is still investigating. Microsoft has confirmed it will appeal the CMA's decision. The UK regulator wrote, "The CMA has prevented Microsoft's proposed purchase of Activision over concerns the deal would alter the future of the fast-growing cloud gaming market, leading to reduced innovation and less choice for UK gamers over the years to come." In a statement, Microsoft's president Brad Smith said the company was disappointed by the CMA's decision and claimed it would appeal. "We remain fully committed to this acquisition and will appeal. The CMA's decision rejects a pragmatic path to address competition concerns and discourages technology, innovation and investment in the United Kingdom. We have already signed contracts to make Activision Blizzard's popular games available on 150 million more devices, and we remain committed to reinforcing these agreements through regulatory remedies. We're especially disappointed that after lengthy deliberations, this decision appears to reflect a flawed understanding of this market and the way the relevant cloud technology actually works." Bobby Kotick,
Boo! Hate that guy.
Yes.
I wrote pause for booze, said, "Today, the Competition and Markets Authority, CMA, a regulatory agency in the UK, decided not to approve our merger with Microsoft. This isn't the news we wanted, but it is far from the final word on this deal," he wrote. "Alongside Microsoft, we can and will contest this decision, and we've already begun the work to appeal to the UK Competition Appeals Tribunal. We're confident in our case because the facts are on our side. This deal is good for competition."
What did we say?
We said when we first heard about this that we didn't want it to happen because we thought they would lead to a lack in competition because everyone would be working for the same person, and it would mean that these companies wouldn't be vying for attention from the consumer and wouldn't be putting as much effort in because they wouldn't have to fight against as many people because they technically all fell under the same umbrella.
Yeah, but what's surprising here, I think, is the reference to cloud gaming. That's
Yes.
the weirdest thing about this story to me. It's not that they've just said, "Oh, it's bad for competition," in the sense that not actually all, I'm being hyperbolic, but all the developers or /publishers would be, it's all one big company, there's no competition anymore. That's a different question or a different point to it will affect the development of cloud gaming and the competition within that sphere. Very strange thing for them to have said. And I also feel a little bit bad. Like, I feel a bit embarrassed that the UK has done this. And
But
I see people like being well, yeah, we are
because
only
the US
other-
is suing them and the EU haven't come out with what they have to say
The other
about
two
it
are
yet.
yet to decide.
But the unfortunate thing was, I don't know if you guys saw that only literally like an hour or so before this story broke, other outlets were reporting the deal's about to be closed. It's looking like they're about to close this deal, and then
on what basis?
I don't really know. I didn't
Do you remember when they were people were tracking people's planes to see where they were going?
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing. Sorry to cut you off,
No,
Peter.
sorry.
As you were saying, like the fact that it's been blocked on the grounds of stifling innovation and growth in the cloud gaming market, whereas Sony will probably be celebrating this as a victory. However, this wasn't Sony's gambit at all. They were appealing competition in the console space, which was dismissed by the CMA a few weeks ago. So Sony are not relevant to this decision whatsoever. Apart from the fact that obviously they are invested in cloud gaming and are actually partnered with Microsoft in cloud gaming in some capacity to share their, I think it's Azure, their cloud gaming technology.
It makes me think that, like, obviously we haven't seen everything that was submitted to the CMA, but it makes me think that there is, like, not to be a conspiracy theorist about this, that there is something that, like, they've noticed that is in what the acquisition is going to do, which is why they brought up cloud gaming. Because, like you say, as far as everyone was aware, this was never
about cloud
gaming. Like, we've never considered that, because as far as we were aware, you know, it's just about whether the games are going to go to other consoles. It was never about whether it was going to affect cloud gaming. So I'm intrigued by what it was exactly that made them say this will affect cloud gaming, and whether there is something that is in the works or that they want to have in the works that is the reason for this, that they've blocked it. So I'm intrigued by why this is the case, because that's the most confusing part about all of it. Not that it got denied, not that Bobby Kotick is sad.
Spicy words from Xbox as well. In regards to suggesting that the CMA is a, what was the quote? Let's see. The decision appears to reflect a flawed understanding of the market. Like, that's a thinly veiled.
You
like,
just don't really understand.
Do you really understand?
About.
And that's a valid point in a lot of instances. You know, there are frequently politicians in all nations, you know, passing legislation on things that they don't understand, particularly in regards to technology and video games. However, the way that the CMA lays out their points, it's pretty in depth. They're clearly not just waving it away on some grounds they don't understand.
Yeah.
However, I don't know what you guys think, but this deal will go through.
Yeah, I think they'll just appeal.
It's going to happen. They'll either appeal and it'll go through, or they'll make some concessions. Like we've mentioned before, this deal is going to go through in some form, just not in its current form.
Yeah.
So they've said that they've made deals to, 150 million devices to get these games. I'm curious, 150 million more devices. I'm curious what that means, because presumably that's not 150 million more individual brands and operating systems and so on. That's just a set amount of devices that reflect that user base. So presumably they'll have to go to pretty much any and all cloud gaming operations and try and make deals with them to appease them, and then go back. Or maybe they're just convinced and will just appeal it in its current state, and maybe it'll go through. I don't know.
Yeah, it's strange. It's weird as well the way that I first saw this break on Twitter, because I follow a lot of people who are into Crash and Spyro and are always looking out for like rumors and stuff from things that Activision are doing as to whether there might be more games coming out. And for some reason, it's accepted among the Spyro fans that if this deal goes through, it'll be a really good thing for the likelihood of Spyro 4. I don't know why. They think that like it's more likely to happen if Xbox purchase them than if they're essentially a multi-platform company. But anyway, that's by the by. There's all sorts of like tinfoil hat stuff as to why they believe that. But they were getting really excited and sharing around these articles saying the deal is about to go through, and then hours later, I just saw so many people despairing that this deal hadn't gone through.
Because it means Spyro 4 will never happen.
Yeah.
Well, or that it's like gonna be, hampered by this, even though if it exists, it's probably already been in development for some years. Yeah. Also, Spyro is heavily associated with PlayStation, so I don't see how it could be a good thing necessarily. It might be a neutral thing, but I don't think it's a good thing for Spyro to be going to Xbox. But yeah, very strange way for me to see it all happen. All these Spyro fans being sad that the UK had like blocked this deal.
It's like the question we got a few weeks ago about how don't you wish games coverage was it back in a simpler time?
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of talking about mergers and acquisitions. We, at a very, very, very base level, barely know what we're talking about, and then when the fandoms start getting involved, they do make these wild assumptions like merger equals Spyro 4.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm just so sick of hearing about this. What I sincerely hope is that now that clearly the competitiveness in the console space argument is put to one side, which is where we saw sort of like Xbox bearing its ass saying, we've got no games and PlayStation has all the games, and PlayStation saying, well, you can't buy up anything you want. Final Fantasy 16 coming exclusively to PlayStation. Like I was sick of hearing that. I hope that we're past that point now, because sometimes it can be fun, but I really detest when billion-trillion-dollar companies try to be relatable and act like they're the underdog and try to get sympathy from the public as well. It's like, absolutely not. If you want to do this ludicrous merger, you go for it. I don't like it, but I'm sick of hearing about it. Don't try and pretend that we're buds or that you're suffering somehow.
I was actually really disappointed when it didn't go through and it was announced. Like, even though I'm a PlayStation fan, and if anything, it might be a slight, bad thing for me as a PlayStation owner if this goes through, or it might not affect it at all. But if anything, it might be on the downside. Even as a PlayStation owner, I was like, oh, it's not gone through. That's really annoying, because we're going to have to talk about it a lot more for a lot longer.
I'd honestly just assumed it had already happened because, I think I'd stopped thinking about it, and I'd blocked out my memory because I thought, I think my brain went, it's going to happen. It's happened. It's done.
I hear about this thing
done deal
every single day. Feels like it's unavoidable every single day. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to go through in the fashion that it is now, perhaps, but it will go through. And it sounds like the deals that they're making are for between 10 and 15 years. So if we do reach the event horizon where Xbox suddenly goes, all right, Call of Duty's ours now, see you guys, that's not going to happen for a decade and a half. And quite frankly, I'm going to relish the silence on the matter for the next 15 years.
Yeah. So now we've got the really fun wait to find out what the EU body does, and also find out how it goes in the US with the court case where they're being sued. So it's really exciting. At least we're done now, apart from when they appeal it. But for a little while, at least we're not doing anything.
I think we've done really well to not talk about it that much on the podcast, because it does feel like there's a development every week. But this week felt like a big
it was
one,
a big one.
that we needed to talk about. So there we are. Let us know what you think of the merger and the state of it. Is this going to go through? And what about all the other things we've spoken about this week? What's the worst hairdo in gaming? Equally as important.
Let's talk about that more. That's more important.
Yeah, let's talk about hair. Why can't we go back to a simpler time where we just appraised hairstyles from video game characters? You can do all of that in the comments below and on social media and all the other places around the internet that Peter's going to tell you about right now.
Hello, youtube.com and twitch.tv/Team TripleJump. It's where all of our content goes out. Videos on YouTube and live streams only on Twitch for the time being anyway. When we're streaming on Twitch, we're modded by Lord Brotovich, Trailing Badger and Mr. Black. And hey, if you've got Amazon Prime, there's a whole big bundle of stuff in there. It's not just about getting your post. I mean, it mainly is, let's face it. And I don't want to have to pay 80 quid for it when I'm not watching Amazon Video, you arse. But there's a Twitch sub in there as well. So spend that on us if you're already paying for Prime. Or start paying for Prime and spend that on us if you like. Twitter.com and Facebook.com/Team TripleJump for video and live stream announcements, legacy video content, bits of weird news, Twitch stream highlights of the week, loads of stuff put there by Fraser and us. And TikTok.com/@Team TripleJump, stuff there put there by Ashton,
me,
who does the TikToks. And we've got a Patreon, which is patreon.com/Team TripleJump. And there are loads of different tiers on there with loads of different rewards. So go and have a look at them and choose one if you want. If you can, that would be great.
Yeah.
We have a website. It's triplejU.mp. Spells jump. It's very clever. And if you want to join our Discord, go to triplej.mup/Discord and chat with our wonderful community. And on Discord, modded by Jack, Joe, Tori, and Tolowise. And if they have to do something, bloody well do it.
And stop being weird.
Yeah, don't be weird. Discord's a fantastic platform and our community is amazing. However, sometimes people are weird.
Yeah.
We're on the case and we know who you are.
Yeah,
if you've been told off,
we've been given a heads up, all right?
Just stop. Don't think we're not there just because the mods are acting on our behalf. Don't think that we're not
Us
aware
and the
of
mods,
your weirdness.
We're tight.
Yeah.
And we know that you're being
Don't be weird. Don't
right?
post your strange fan art somewhere else. Just saying. Also, don't come in and make inappropriate comments about the visual appearance of the hosts. That's potentially another thing.
Yeah.
Plural.
Multiple hosts.
Just stop being weird.
Stop being weird.
Thank you.
If you want to listen to the podcast in its audio form, go to triplej.mup/podcast and check out any of our live stream VODs. Go to triplej.mup/VODs. To book any of us three or James Jenkins on Cameo, why not go to triplej.mup/Cameo? And lastly, if you want to buy some sick and cool merch, like this jacket, like that jacket,
Not this
like
t-shirt.
that t-shirt, and not that one.
This might still be a Patreon reward. No, it's
No,
not.
it's
It's
the
not.
other
It never
one.
was. The other one was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one was just on the store once upon a time.
You
It
can
was.
go to triplejumpshop.com and make sure you're following at TripleJumpShop on Twitter for the latest merch announcements.
Why not follow Peter and Ashton on Instagram and Twitter at that Peter Austin and at Scrambled Ashton, and myself just on Twitter at confused_dude. We do lists every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, streams every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thursday being the joint stream.
Blaze it.
On Twitch. They're all on Twitch. Worst Games Ever is fortnightly, Friday for patrons of a certain tier, Sunday for everyone else. Weirdest Games is monthly, a week early for patrons. The Bonus After Dark podcast is fortnightly on Monday for patrons. We're just about to record one. And the podcast is every Saturday. We also do shows all the bloody time. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right,
did miss that.
Why not leave a 5-star review on your platform of choice? It helps something to do with Al Gore's rhythms, and we'd appreciate it. It only takes a moment of your time. A few things out this week, right?
Yeah.
Ashton?
Hopefully, May's gaming forecast will be out already. It would have
April.
come out yesterday. April's gaming forecast. There's lots coming out. Lots of big games. Lots of small games too. So why not check that out if you wouldn't mind?
Yes. I would also like to thank Immortals of Avium. You may have seen a few posts going up on the YouTube community tab, and also a short this week as well. They were kind enough to sponsor us, which is, good for the channel. And also, the game actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
And we're not being paid to say that, but just to be clear, if you want to go watch the short, we'd appreciate it. It would help us out a lot. Why not leave a like? That would also be lovely. Thank you very much.
There's also a delicious Worst Games Ever Die Hard Viennetta coming out. That'll be next week, right? We've only
No.
just
Nope.
It's meant
This
to be
week.
this week.
we only just recorded it there.
We did.
Wow.
You
Just
had
been-
COVID.
You had COVID last week. And you were away the week before.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it just
So
has
it's
to be
this
turned
week.
around
It had to
really
be
quick.
turned around really quick. Yeah.
Oh well, good luck, James Jenkins. I didn't realize that was how short it was, but yeah, it's because
Yeah.
I was off for an extra week.
Yeah.
Oh man, okay. Good luck.
Good luck, James.
Yeah.
We'll have to record another one next week.
Yeah.
Just to get us back on track.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Well, yeah, it's coming out. It's out
For patrons.
for patrons already, and it's coming out tomorrow for everyone else.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we are.
Ben's
It's
trying.
like, we only just recorded that. Yeah, we did.
We did do that. Yeah.
Ben started to try and trip me up by putting incorrect names on the spreadsheet that I take that from to see if I'll put it in and I'll say it out loud. But I got it this week and
Yeah,
I
you did
caught
ask, to be fair, because last time it was Cabela's, what was it? Good
You
boy
said something
game.
like
Good
dogs something, and I was like, "What is that?" And then you went, "Yeah, it's actually nothing to do with that." And
That's
I was
actually
like,
not the real name,
cool.
but you put it on the running order, and then you asked me yesterday, "Is it Die Hard? Is it really Die Hard Viennetta?" I was like, "No, it's not. I'm just going to try and trick you now."
"Yeah,
There we are. Thank you so much for listening / watching, everybody. There's just enough time to hear from this week's sponsor before we go.
Hey, if you are going out into the wilderness up a rocky hill, take a chainsaw with you. That's right. Campbell, the Mountain King.
Fantastic. Goodbye, everybody.
bye bye."